5.8 Graphs of absolute values. Here we have the graph of y equals the absolute value of x, but I just want to confirm it with the t-table. So given y is equal to the absolute value of x, we have x and y, and we want to plug in -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. First, starting off with 0, the absolute value of 0 is 0. The absolute value of 1 is 1. The absolute value of 2 is 2. On the negative side, we have the absolute value of -1 is positive 1, and the absolute value of -2 is 2. Then when we plot those points, you'll see that as x increases, y increases, and then when x is decreasing, we have y is increasing for each of those values. And when you connect the dots, you have the V-shaped graph, which is an absolute value equation. Next, going on to a translation, which basically says we have the y is equal to the absolute value of x minus 4, so you just take all the numbers from the previous and shift it down 4 units. So here, making the t-table, starting with 0, we're going to have the absolute value of 0 minus 4, which is -4. Then when we plug in 1, 1 minus 4 is -3. And when we plug in 2, 2 minus 4 is -2. And then dealing with the absolute values of the negative side. The absolute value of -1 is positive 1, and 1 minus 4 is -3. And when we plug in -2, the absolute value of -2 is 2 minus 4, which is -2. And as you'll see in this graph, everything just gets shifted down 4 units after the absolute value, and there goes the graph of y equals the absolute value of x minus 4. Going on to one where there's a shift on the inside. So what we're going to do is, again, make a t-table. And the question then is, what makes 0? So in class we discussed this whenever we were trying to solve absolute value equations. So here's absolute value of x minus 2. What value of x will I plug in to make 0? That is 2. So, because the absolute value of 2 minus 2 is equal to 0. So that's where our V-shape is going to start from. So then we have 3 minus 2 is 1, and 4 minus 2 is 2. That's our positive direction. Now when I plug in 1, I have 1 minus 2, which is the absolute value of -1, which is equal to 1. And when I plug in 0, I get 0 minus 2 is -2, but the absolute value of -2 is 2. And then we have our V-shape. Notice that this x minus 2 is, again, what makes 0, and I have to x equals 2, and that is where our vertex meets.